Alright, so hopefully this is just sort of a one-time thing where we were getting pretty behind on when exactly we were going to do this video, and we were really hoping to get it out in the actual month of September, which of course October 1st is tomorrow. And there was a whole thing how we weren't sure if it was going to be tonight or tomorrow morning or something, but just all the uncertainty, and to just get something out there, especially since we're a few behind in videos also. I went ahead and volunteered to just do this really fast, and then hopefully this doesn't break up things too much, because I know people really like the whole sort of chat and all of us doing it at the same time thing. But Owen and Ashley will still be doing this, probably right behind this video, so, but this is hopefully the only time this will be broken up, but just for the sake of this month, I wanted to kind of get things moving. So, as usual, as we always do, we're just doing the big 8 categories: picture, director, actor, actress, supporting actress, and original adapted screenplay. In the reverse of that order. So let's go ahead and start, and I guess I'll just explain what's been going on and why I made the choices I made as we go, rather than anything introductory, I guess. To start off with adapted screenplay, I have Downton Abbey, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Little Women. We'll talk a little more about Joker later. A lot of people already had it in here the last time we did the video, and I wasn't sure about it, but it appears to be more than less good to go here. I also didn't have Little Women in for a reason that I can't remember. I think in Little Women and Joker's places I had the laundromat and Loose. And I think just about everybody turned on the laundromat when, not necessarily in a bad way, but as far as an awards way, when that trailer came out. Which, of course, I didn't watch, but I had heard that it's apparently not the movie people thought that it was. I did hear something about it having somewhat, like, Big Short kind of vibes, and being Soderbergh, you would still think that would be something, but it just apparently immediately started dropping off radars as soon as that trailer dropped, so I figured I should probably take the signs and follow suit. I was a little, actually, more hesitant to take out Loose, and I know Loose isn't really a movie people are talking about, like, at all. But that's also kind of what makes me suspicious of it, is if it just might come out of nowhere, especially since in the first video I had said it's based on a play, which usually it's a good chance in this category. And also just that's where a lot of the praise is coming from, and how well written it is, and how, like, layered it is. So I don't know, even though nobody's talking about it, I still kind of can't quite take my eye off it in this category, but I went ahead and took it out for now, because the 5 here seem to be fine. Like I said, the new additions for me of Joker and Little Women on top of what I already had with Downton Abbey, The Irishman, and Jojo Rabbit. I know a lot of people weren't quite sure about Downton Abbey, like, awards-wise, at least for some bigger stuff, but like, Maggie Smith seems to be a consistent prediction, stuff like that, and maybe stuff like costume and production design. But I feel like this almost just seems like kind of a given also, especially with Julian Fellowes being a previous winner in this category for very similar material with sometimes the same actress. So, yeah, and then obviously The Irishman is really taken off now that people have seen it, and it's supposedly everything you could hope for in a Scorsese, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, Keitel mob movie that is 3.5 hours long. And we have to wait 2 more months for it, as far as its Netflix release, though it is getting that limited run at the beginning of November. But even though it is the end of September, I do think this is the kind of movie where that kind of buzz is easily going to stick around. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about the buzz of The Irishman happening too early, by any means. Especially with the way it's going to be released. It'll kind of keep coming back into people's lives. So there is that. I guess I also didn't do the introductory thing where I usually say, speaking of the fact that it's the end of September, is the end of September. So this is, I know being one person instead of the 3 of us, I feel a bit more susceptible to the idiots that don't realize how much is going to change between now and then and think definitively even now. So hopefully hopefully those people haven't come out of the woodwork yet. They will around the December area for sure. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about adapted screenplay for the most part. And Jojo Rabbit is something that's like, Jojo Rabbit's a movie that it's there, and it's this really big contender, and then there'll be times where, like, I start to kind of lose faith in it, and I'll be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put as much stock in that as I am. But then every time it seems like I say that, I hear something, like, you know, glowing all over again, and people saying how it's going to be this really big deal, so I'll stick with it for now. And see what happens. So, as far as original screenplay, I have The Farewell, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, and Waves. There's a few changes here. I was really... What I had in here before was Booksmart, for one of them. And I really didn't want to take it out, but the thing that I bumped it for was Parasite, which might seem obvious to most people. A lot of people already had it in. Especially with how well Foreign does in this category, even with The Farewell already in there, with Farewell not even being entirely Foreign, so that's really probably a moot point. But the fact that the buzz for Parasite is not going away, and because usually when I saw the buzz around it, it was like, oh, well, there's our Foreign winner, the end. I don't think it's going to be like Roma levels or anything. Like, this is the only major category I have it in, is original screenplay. I didn't put it in picture or anything. But yeah, it just doesn't seem to be going away. So, regardless of how, I feel like it's been, like, forever since I started. Like, obviously, there was Cam, but then ever since then, it seems like it's still consistently mentioned by people. So I want to make sure to not exactly forget about it. And then there's Waves, the new one here, which I kind of got a... I mean, I saw... Because it's by Trey Edward Schultz, who did It Comes at Night, who obviously I'm a huge supporter of that movie, and he also got so much acclaim for his previous movie. But the thing about this is that, so I knew what Waves was because I was looking at his filmography, because I was curious what he was doing next. And it sounded so incredibly different, like maybe something more in the style of his previous movie. But the thing about that is that it came out of TIFF now, and as I say in every August video, I always feel like we're missing something in August, because there's usually always something at TIFF that nobody's looking at, that just kind of comes out and is suddenly a big deal for the rest of the way. And Waves is giving me those vibes. I've heard, like, Moonlight comparisons. I've heard that it has, like, this really sort of epic feel. I think it's, like, 2 hours and 15 minutes or something. And it's just maybe about relationships with, like, Sterling K. Brown, and it's, who's a star that just keeps on rising in these really prestigious projects. So, The Predator notwithstanding. But, so yeah, I kind of somewhat went all in on Waves. We'll see if that changes as things go on. But it just kind of seems like the perfect one to be like the TIFF outbreak, so we'll see what happens with that. And the others, I think, kind of speak for themselves. The Farewell is another one I'm just kind of going all in on, like, really. And I was last time too. I'm going all in on it even more now. That may be influenced by the fact that I saw it. I saw it shortly after we did our first video. And I could just see all the stars aligning for it as I was watching it, in almost all categories. So I'm going to probably stick with The Farewell through this. Marriage Story, I don't know exactly where this is coming from. Like, I didn't see the jumping off point to it, but I keep hearing stuff about Marriage Story being like a top 3 contender at this point. Which is interesting, since we've also got The Irishman, and it's like, for Netflix to have 2 of, like, the top 3 contenders is potentially insane, but at the same time I do feel like, even though a lot of people say, oh, it's going to be held back because of Netflix and all that, maybe win-wise, but Roma really broke down a lot of those barriers. Like we were talking about before, when we've talked about endlessly, not only did it have Netflix going against it, but the fact that it was a black and white foreign movie also, and it still managed to get 10 nominations and 3 wins, one of which was cinematography. I think if a Netflix movie has already won in cinematography, that's a pretty big barrier torn down. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the Netflix bias, but yeah, so and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is still hanging on. I was afraid back in August that I was wishful thinking, but it seems to be continuous, and I'm still cautious, because I'm always cautious about the one I'm really passionate about being in the awards race, but it's still looking good for this, and I don't want to jinx anything, so we'll leave that at that. So let's go into acting categories, starting with supporting actress, which is always like the weakest category of the year. I have Annette Bening for The Report, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Maggie Smith for Downton Abbey, Meryl Streep for The Laundromat, and is it Xu Zhao for The Farewell, The Grandmother. Somebody I took out was Octavia Spencer for Loose. Something that I've still felt like I think last time I said, you know, don't fuck around with Octavia Spencer. She always finds her way in. And it still feels like the kind of role in the kind of movie where if people were talking about it, would feel like a certainty, but I still almost hear nothing about it still. So, I guess I'll leave her behind and potentially regret it. But speaking of things I could have regretted if I had potentially left them behind, I did almost axe Streep, given the reaction to The Laundromat that we just talked about. So and if I had axed Streep, I would have put Florence Pugh in her place, who I did have in here the last time we did this for Little Women, because Florence Pugh is like in that absolute it girl status, to where it seems like she could just cakewalk to this. But there are a few things going on in this category. I was also not sure about Bening, because I feel like we're not hearing too much about The Report either. But still, she's got a Beatty role, and she's not nominated like all the time, but it's like you can always kind of sense it from a mile away when she will be. So we'll go on that. I don't think I had Laura Dern in here last time, but there was the debate about the fact that she has Marriage Story and Little Women, and it's like it seems pretty clear that the much more obvious choice here is Marriage Story. Yeah, I mean, she's, especially with her Big Little Lies work on top of it, she's going to have an amazing year anyway, and a nice way to cap that off with whatever awards Big Little Lies may see in its future. This as well. So, yeah, and then Maggie Smith, especially after seeing Downton Abbey, should absolutely be a shoo-in. Like, there should be no... there should be no doubt about this. And like I said, but the fact that she's had so much SAG support in the past for her work on the show, and with how many SAG voters are also Academy voters, there's a lot of overlap there. So this should really be easy for her to get here. So we'll see. And Zhao just makes sense. It's the perfect role in a movie that, like I said, is really gonna take off. Even if she has to pull what Marina de Tavira did last year, where it's like she doesn't get anything else. It's like I'll probably still keep her in here, because even if she doesn't get anything else, she just completely seems to be that last-minute nomination for the big one. So I'm probably going to stick with her the whole time, regardless of what happens from here on. But it would also be nice if she was consistent throughout the season also, but we'll see what happens. Let's go to the bloodbath that is supporting actor. Not only was this category kind of a bloodbath already, I know when I talked about it last month, I had said that I had a solidified 5 and didn't really have any backup. And a lot has changed, but also not a lot has changed. Because there's a shitload more contenders than there were, but I only made one change, and that's only because somebody switched categories. So for supporting actor, I have Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, John Lithgow for Bombshell, I can't read my own writing, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. I just sloppily wrote their last names without a movie, so I gotta decode myself. So Hanks switched places on us. I think we all had him, I think everybody had him in leading last time we did this, and I think he is now, especially since the movie's been seen, he's now officially in supporting, with Matthew Rhys being the lead of the movie. Which I think is going to do wonders for him. He's never been nominated in supporting, and obviously he hasn't been nominated since Castaway, and everybody's like, well, if he couldn't get in for Captain Phillips, what the hell can he get in for anymore? But him going in a different category now, and in a role like this, and I was so relieved, like, for him when I saw this. It was the reviews for the movie, like, totally back up him being like a legit contender here. So yes. And then Lithgow. The thing about Bombshell is that I've seen it, maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but the places I do look, Bombshell is, like, rarely to be seen, if seen at all. And I feel like that might potentially be, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but that could be people getting ahead of themselves and jumping all over the movies that have been seen and that we're hearing word about. Because as far as I know, Bombshell has not been seen by anybody and doesn't come out until like the very end of the year. So it'll be really easy to kind of forget that it exists and go for all this stuff that people are talking about and have seen. I still feel like Bombshell might be waiting in the wings just a little bit. Not entirely, not enough to live up to its title, but I still think there's like I'm not off the Lithgow train yet, and it might take a little bit for me to get there. And like I was saying in the last video, when I started these for the first time last month, Lithgow was the very first person I went for. And I kind of want to stick with that gut reaction for a little while, so we'll see where that takes us. By all the sounds of it, Pacino and Pitt are the ones battling this out. It sounds like, with Hanks maybe there. Once again, I can't express how much Pitt has really just stayed, like, you know, the top of the leaderboard for this category, but Pacino's reactions for The Irishman sound very, very, very promising. And it sounds like a very big role to kind of, especially with, apparently De Niro is a bit more downplayed throughout it, is what I heard. So that they kind of have that balance within each other is probably going to help both of them out enormously. So yeah, that's amazing. And obviously, he was already in here for a lot of people anyway, and I think the reactions just only further solidified that. And Taika Waititi is actually just a case of what I was talking about before with Jojo Rabbit, where it's like, there were like so many times where I almost took him out, especially with all the other contenders here. But Jojo Rabbit just keeps coming back when I think it's leaving. So I was like, for now, I'll still hang on to it. So, like I said, the Academy loves their World War II era stuff, and like I said, his role apparently could not be more of a fuck you to Hitler if it tried, so... And he's becoming more and more, you know, mainstream and popular as it goes. So yeah, I'll stick with him. The person that I really wanted to put in here was I wanted to keep riding the wave of waves and go for Sterling K. Brown, especially since I was saying that he's been like really been this rising star like ever since American Crime Story, and it just keeps going for him. And like it seems like an Oscar nomination is in his future very soon, and this could totally be this, especially if they go for waves as much as I think they could. But it's just such a packed category. I did not know. Like, Taika Waititi is probably the first one I would take out of the 5 that I have, but I just couldn't bring myself to take him out. So that, and then I keep hearing things about Pesci, who is apparently very downplayed considering what people expect out of Pesci in a Scorsese movie. But there'll still be the hype around the fact that, you know, he is in a big role again and he came out of retirement, and that'll carry him for a while. But I do think that there'll probably be enough people gravitating towards Pacino that it might just... Like, he might, you know, taste it a little bit, but also I don't think, if you've watched the videos from like the New York Film Festival, where he just does not give a fuck whatsoever about being a part of this. So that probably could go either way. It would be interesting to see another double nomination in supporting actor so soon after 3 Billboards, which hadn't done it since another movie that's a gangster movie with Harvey Keitel with Bugsy, and how many years apart that was, like 26. So that's not impossible. And then I still keep seeing Willem Dafoe being thrown around, who, like we said, is on a hot streak after the Florida Project and then Eternity's Gate. This would make sense, but I still wonder... I could see The Lighthouse going 2 ways. I could see Eggers getting a lone director nomination, like Paul Bukowski last year, or Bennett Miller in 2014. Or I can just see the movie being just way too weird for the Academy, and they just don't go for it at all. But if they do decide to, Dafoe is definitely here. Like I said, it's just a really packed category now. Like what I was saying before about having a solidified 5, one of which was Jamie Foxx, who I don't even have on the map anymore, yeah, so that got really packed really damn fast. So that, or I was just slow on that category. But nevertheless, yes. And as Owen likes to mention, this is usually like my favorite category. It has my favorite performances in it. So this is really exciting at the same time, but really difficult as far as doing the prediction thing goes. So Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the category, but that's what I have for now. For actress, not too much else is going on than there was before. I have Awkwafina for The Farewell, Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. Like I was talking about people sleeping on Bombshell, I really, really, really wanted to double down on that and put Charlize in here, and I did have her in here last time, but once again it was just a matter of I didn't know who to take out, because I almost axed Ronan, because maybe it's just because I feel burned by... I feel burned by her in two ways. At the very start, the very first time we did it last year, I was sold on her Mary Queen of Scots, which obviously went absolutely nowhere for her. And then I was convinced that she was winning for Lady Bird a couple of years ago, which thankfully Frances McDormand took over, but still. So now every time I see Saoirse Ronan, I just kind of have this inherent skepticism, just on principle. Even though I have heard, I was talking about the big mouth dude that doesn't handle his NDAs too well, that saw Little Women that I was talking to on a forum, was basically solidifying that Ronan is good enough to be here, which I guess word of mouth doesn't do jack shit this early, but that kind of word of mouth anyway. So we'll see. Interestingly enough, I may have possibly jumped the gun a little bit on Cynthia Erivo in the comment I made in the last video about how, why did it matter if anybody else was going to be nominated, because Cynthia Erivo playing Harriet Tubman in an Oscar bait movie was obviously going to run away with this. But now she seems to be towards the bottom, especially since, shock surprise, apparently an Oscar bait movie about Harriet Tubman is a tad underwhelming and a tad bland. So, you could, I mean, obviously you can do wonders with that material, but as far as I heard, it just kind of made a bland Oscar bait biopic. So, even if she does make it, which I still have her in here for, she'll probably be towards the bottom. Last time we did this, somebody I had towards the bottom that I almost axed before I realized category placement was Zellweger. And if you've been paying attention very recently, Zellweger went from, yeah, maybe she'll get in, but I don't think the movie itself's going to do too much. So she may be put on the chopping block. I'm like, no, nothing else is really surrounding it except for her, so it could be like a 50-50 thing. Zellweger's buzz has gone like through the fucking roof in like the last 2 weeks, to the point that if the ceremony were to be held now, she would probably win. Like, I'm probably not even close. I mean, obviously, I didn't have Scarlett Johansson in last time either, but that was before Marriage Story really became, like, the contender it apparently is, which I still feel weird saying because I still don't know where it came from. Where it's like, suddenly I just started hearing that. Yeah, obviously, you know, Johansson is, I guess you could say overdue. Some people would say that, like, for Lost in Translation. I know a lot of people thought she was actually legitimately worthy for her, even despite being only voice work. But, yeah, so, another person that keeps getting brought up is Alfred Woodard for Clemency, which is another one where I feel like she's kind of almost sneaking around. But it's like, if I couldn't fit Charlize in here like I really wanted to, I'm not sure what else is going to happen here, unless Erivo's the one that falls off, or Ronan, because I think Zellweger, Johansson, and Awkwafina are probably going to be fine. Like I said, I don't want to speak definitively at the end of September, but we'll see what happens. So, yeah. So actor, a couple of changes had to be made, of course. So I have Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, De Niro for The Irishman, DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, and Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. So I'll start off right away by saying, when we did the video in August, I had said, I'll believe the Joaquin Phoenix thing when I see it. Well, the reviews are out, the Golden Lion has been won, and the dude is actually out there doing interviews, accepting awards, and dare I say, possibly campaigning. So, I think Joaquin Phoenix is more than good to go. And that's the thing, too, is people are actually talking about, you know, can he win? And I've heard the person behind him is probably Adam Driver. Where once again, this mysterious buzz for Marriage Story that's got it really, really high. But it's like, you start off in August, and you see Joaquin Phoenix in a Joker movie by Todd Phillips, and you're like, so I don't think this is going to do anything. I think it's wishful thinking when people say that, sort of like the Hugh Jackman for Logan thing a couple of years ago, only even more outlandish, because how are the Academy ever going to go for this? And then the reviews come out, and you think, well, yeah, comic fans will probably love this, and, you know, Joker fans will probably love this and all that, and, you know, certain other groups or whatever. But then the critical reviews start coming out, and there's just raves everywhere. And then it winning the Golden Lion. The last two movies to win the Golden Lion at Venice were Roma and The Shape of Water. The movie that was really fucking close to winning Best Picture, that everybody thought was going to win Best Picture, and the movie that did win Best Picture for its year. So, not to say that's going to be that kind of precursor all the time. Maybe it's time now I go ahead and say I didn't put the Joker in picture yet. As you can see, I will gladly shift things when I feel I believe it a little more, and it's like all it took was this for me to say, adapted screenplay, he's good, it's good to go. Actor, he's definitely good to go, and not only that, is probably at the top of the list. But it's like, if I'm gonna go the picture route, I'm gonna need one more month at least to get there and see what happens, especially after it comes out this Friday, and we'll see how things go from there. But I mean, and talking about Todd Phillips while we're at it, as far as Joker's chances here, because it's like, I'm not even remotely, like, hesitant about Todd. Like, I'm not predicting Todd Phillips in director, but I'm totally not hesitant about the idea that it could happen. Because I'm like, immediately getting Adam McKay vibes. We may or may not have talked about this last time. Where it was like, when The Big Short was out and became, like, a big contender, like a top 3 contender, it was like, yeah, but surely they won't go for Adam McKay, because he's Adam McKay, he's the Will Ferrell guy. And then it just took a couple of stepping stones, I believe DGA included, and then there he was. Exactly, and he's already scored one again for Vice this past year. So, and then Peter Farrelly last year, who didn't get in director, but was on the stage holding an Oscar after Best Picture was announced. So the fact that Todd Phillips made this movie, and I keep hearing, like I said, I'm trying to avoid all the advertisements, but I keep hearing how, like, good it looks, like, aesthetically, and how, like, Phillips basically directed the holy shit out of it. So it's like, if Joker does take off like that, and does bring its Golden Lion and its reviews to a picture nomination, Todd Phillips only needs, like, a couple of stepping stones. So give Todd Phillips a DGA nomination, and probably there he is. But as far as Joker goes right now in the big categories, I'm just sticking with adapted screenplay and actor. But I did just want to put it out there that with just a few more stepping stones, all that shit can totally happen. So we'll have to see. It's still just kind of almost jarring that it's real. Like, not only is the movie real, but that it's got this kind of reaction already before it even comes out is kind of insane. So I will gladly wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, what all of that is trying to say is that Phoenix is basically sort of at possibly the front of this pack, as outlandish as that may have seemed a little while back. But you've also got I did Ian McKellen in The Good Liar was one of those things I wanted to, like, hang on to forever, like I did Robert Duvall in The Judge, and how it eventually paid off, or even Paul Schrader last year. But I mean, with the other choices here, Ian McKellen's probably like 8th, if that, now. So that's unfortunate. But I didn't have De Niro last time, which was something that was itching in my brain. So the Irishman review is coming out and all that, and the fact that I feel like they are really going to go in on the Irishman, Netflix aside. Once again, the voters will have, like, a whole month to see it in a theater before it's on Netflix, so yeah. And yeah, even though they say he's downplayed, like I was saying before, but between him and Pacino, if, like, one's doing the more big stuff and one's doing the more downplayed stuff, that's probably going to complement them just equally just fine and make them both shine in the best ways. So yeah, and of course De Niro also being in Joker, he's going to have, like, a really damn good year, so we got that. Hoping DiCaprio is secure. I don't see why he wouldn't be. So yeah. And Banderas, I'm going to keep hanging on to. Like I said, still hasn't been nominated yet. It's the perfect part to be nominated for. It's like the culmination of his whole career. Basically playing, like, a surrogate of Almodovar is, like, what else could you possibly ask of him? Now, obviously, a person that's missing here that I keep seeing a lot is Bale. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm just kind of not sold on Ford versus Ferrari. Like, I see it thrown into picture occasionally. I've seen Mangold's name thrown around, and I see Bale thrown around a lot. But I don't know, and I'm wondering if it's because I feel burned about Rush, because I went all in on Rush for a while there, back in 2013, which paid off to, like, fucking nothing. And I feel like the movies have similar vibes, at least from the little I know. So I still don't know about Ford versus Ferrari, but we'll see. But these five feel pretty good to me right now. So if anybody can break those five, I'll be really interested to see who the hell it is and for what. So let's go on to director, where I made one change. Yeah, I made a big change, actually. I have Sam Mendes for 1917, Scorsese for The Irishman, Trey Edward Schultz for Waves, Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Lulu Wang for The Farewell. As I said, I'm all in on The Farewell, all in on The Irishman, all in on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Trey Edward Schultz is, like I said, I'm just kind of going all in on Waves. It just really has, like, it's just, that's all I can say, is it's really giving me vibes. I don't know, I've seen one still of it. It's that still of, like, Sterling K. Brown and the other three sitting at, like, a table in a diner or something. And that's all it is. That's all I have to go on. And the fact that it apparently got rave reviews out of TIFF. But I just feel like and apparently there's, like, a musical aspect to it or something. It just sounds really unique, I guess. And like I said, Schultz is just such an amazing filmmaker, and it's like, even this early in his career, it feels like this would happen to him, so we'll see. And Mendes, I don't know how much 1970 is getting talked up right now, but I do keep hearing about the whole, obviously the Academy loves their war movies, and then Mendes, a previous winner, taking in this whole, like, one-take approach. I just feel like it feels almost undeniable, but we'll see what happens and what other competition comes in. As far as Marriage Story possibly being a top 3 contender, like I keep hearing, it would make sense if Noah Baumbach was in here. But as just last year showed us, you don't necessarily have to be a contender and director anymore. Ben Affleck kind of resurged that, and then Peter Farrelly definitely showed us you can go pretty far and not, necessarily need in the director race, especially with how, they're always throwing in inspired shit in director anymore, so stuff like that for movies that seem obvious can get bumped out. See also when Paul Thomas Anderson bumped out Martin McDonagh a couple years ago. So is that it for director? So James Gray. Obviously, I really took pride in the fact that I was predicting Ad Astra for a couple of big things, and thought it was going to be like this really big, like sort of like the next Arrival or something like that, or the next big space movie like Gravity, that really just came in and like tore shit up through the Academy. I had Gray in director, I had Ad Astra in picture. Last year, when I was doing it before it got pushed to this year, I was talking about Tommy Lee Jones in supporting actor. And I was still feeling that prior to its release when we did the video in August. And now that the movie is out, it has gotten its reaction, and I have seen the movie for myself. Maybe not. I mean, he's gotten some Malick comparisons for it, and Malick obviously did get in for picture and director for The Tree of Life, so it's not impossible that a movie as divisive like that can still do it. If anything, you're more likely to get in if you're divisive, because you're going to have your passion voters, which will get you that percentage just enough to get into picture. But given the competition and how the competition's getting more stacked and the kind of movie Ad Astra is, I was able to throw in the towel on Ad Astra. I mean, it wouldn't be, a bad thing if it got some really good attention, like, kind of at the last minute. But there's just so much competition. Like, there's, like, way too much competition, so I'll go ahead and, hang Ad Astra out to dry, unfortunately. But that's where my director picks go from here. So lastly, we have picture, and traditionally we do the 9 slots. And like I said, if it's 8, then we have an extra one, and maybe we'll get all 8, and if it's 9, like it often is, then we'll see how we do. Because I don't think it's been 10 since we've been doing the new rules, so maybe it will be at some point again. But in the meantime, for the 9, I have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, The Farewell, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Waves. I don't think there's anything missing in there, is there? Yeah, so as I went through the whole Joker thing, so we'll see where that lands. I know a lot of people have been throwing Parasite in here. Like I said, maybe, possibly, if it goes that far, but I feel like it's one of those ones where it'll be the acclaimed foreign movie that wins in foreign, but maybe stops in the Big 8 at Screenplay. Do we have anything here that really needs much explaining? Because obviously there's the 5 director nominees, which, like I said, there's the potential. Obviously, the lone director nomination of the getting in director without picture is, we're starting to see a bit more also with how the directing branch seems to be getting much more inspired as we go. Yeah, so I think that's, yeah, some of the stuff in here that's like not even in any of the screenplays got Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is something that just kind of has like the sort of the thing where it could have like passion votes, or it could be like the feel-good movie that ends up in here. And looking at some of these, we kind of probably need a feel-good movie. So, yeah, you got a comedy in here with Jojo Rabbit, and The Farewell, really. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if you want to go that route. And then, yeah, the Irishman feels like I said, it's to my understanding, what I keep hearing is the top 3 contenders are The Irishman, Marriage Story, and, with luck, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I still think, I mean, I don't think it would go all the way or anything, but I've got a lot of faith in The Farewell. Like, I've probably got a ridiculous amount of faith in The Farewell, so we'll see how that does. And yeah, you've got a World War II movie in here, you've got another war movie in here, I want to say, yeah. And then the year, it says. Yeah. Yeah, World War I movie, World War II movie, a few comedies, a few dramas, a Scorsese crime movie that's 3.5 hours, a Little Women adaptation. You've got fucking everything in here. So, like I said, the only thing I really feel like I'm kind of going on a limb on right now is Waves, which could be the breakout thing that comes from out of nowhere, but we'll see, or at least out of nowhere in regards to last month. So, yeah, I don't think I said anything too incredibly ridiculous or too incredibly reaching, and I don't want to say it was too safe either. So we'll see what happens, and what Owen and Ashley have to say, especially Ashley. Ashley's always kind of got the out there choices that end up being maybe not so out there. So yeah, this is my end of it, so I think that's going to be it for this. I'm doing some clusterfuck of a review video, I don't know, and I'm doing another Versus, and I'm seeing that 4K restoration in the theater tomorrow of The Shining, and I figured I'd just do a few minutes on that as its own video also. And then we'll get into all the horror Verses, and Joker coming out Friday, and all that stuff, and then October is just going to be packed with shit. You're going to get 4 videos from me and my brother, one of which is enormous. And yeah, so October is just going to be full of all kinds of shit. So until Owen and Ashley do this pretty much right after me, that's it for me.